Hello and welcome to episode 70 of the 905er podcast with me, Roland Tanner.
I am Joel McLeod.
And we've got a jam-packed episode this Thursday with lots of pretty big stories for the 905 region. And we're going to kick it off with a story that you found, Joel, with the mayor of Oakville being outspoken, as he tends to be, about issues that he disagrees with. This is a classic Burtonism, I think. Why don't you take it away with describing what this story is about?
Well, yeah, classic is a good way to describe it because it's been a class action lawsuit. To start off, there's a $1 billion with a B class action claim against some Oakville property by Oakville property owners against the city, the town of Oakville, Mayor Rob Burton, Conservation Halton region, the town of Milton, and the Ontario government. Basically, without going into the weeds on this one, the claim is saying that development in Oakville has led to an increased flood risk in their homes. Now, these homeowners are in the southern part of Oakville, and the claim is that the development in the north end is basically disrupting the water table and causing a greater increase in risk of flooding in their homes because of basically urban development, urban spread, urban sprawl is their classic. Now these I want to emphasize these claims have not been proven in court. We haven't gotten to that point yet. However, that didn't stop Mayor Burton from chiming in and basically calling the claim is stupid and a political stunt. Now, that last one is referring to one of the lawyers who is behind the claim is a John McLaughlin who ran against Mayor Burton twice for mayor, lost both times, obviously, but that didn't stop Mayor Burton from saying, quote, "This is a political stunt by political losers." This is this hasn't been tried, but this is something we've talked about a couple times on the podcast. Is that the need to spread our urban boundaries further and further north is going to have repercussions. This may be one of them. So to call it stupid or a stunt, I think is a little bit disingenuous on the part of Mayor Burton.
Yeah, obviously we can't comment on the specifics of this case. However, the fact that development causes flooding is not a controversial question. It's well established. It was, I believe, the city itself in Burlington, when we had a flood back in 2015, if I'm remembering right. The city itself talked about, the increased amounts of runoff because of development and the need to mitigate that. So on the surface, I think it's a bit much to say it's just a political stunt. I mean, obviously, Mayor Burton is one of the more outspoken mayors. And I think he's been around long enough that he doesn't really care what he says or who he says it to. But it's not particularly helpful, it seems to me, to come out with this kind of stuff when we know that flooding is increasing in all of our part of Ontario, in the 905, in Toronto itself. Floodplains are being adjusted by conservation authorities because of that, and that affects all kinds of things.
Well, this is one of the things that we had on the chair, the executive director of the Conservation Halton on a little while ago to talk about the province stripping the powers of conservation authorities to govern exactly this situation. Our municipalities, not just Oakville, but Burlington, Hamilton, Mississauga, Peel, Brampton, we're hitting the boundary. We're hitting that green belt wall, and they've been hitting it for a while. And it's kind of one of these things like the municipalities just haven't kind of clued into that. It's this idea of we can just keep building single family homes perpetually, as far as the eye can see. And the thing is, the people don't want that. We know that the attitude towards is towards protecting the green belt, protecting our green space north of north of that. And so I think we need to have a little bit more inventiveness and ingenuity in terms of, well, how do we redesign our cities now to make them livable and find places for people to live? This comment of saying, the consequences of that urban sprawl are being felt by people, and they're saying, you're not taking this into account.
Mhm.
And to say, well, it's stupid and it's a stunt and it's silly is very dismissive to people who have lived in Oakville and in the region for a long time. Honestly, the comment is silly and a bit of a political stunt, in my
Well,
opinion.
yeah, and political stunts are very much the purview of many many mayors in the 905 region. Um, every single city, certainly in the 905, I believe, if not most of the cities across Canada, went through if I can be quite as outspoken as Mayor Burton, a kind of orgy of self-congratulation back in about 2018, when they all kind of simultaneously declared that it was a climate emergency. Now, I remember saying, I actually put this question to the new mayor of Burlington at that time during an interview, that, what kind of climate emergency doesn't have a budget attached to it? Because these declarations came with no money attached. They were just simply a matter of political posturing. Now, symbols are sometimes important. I'll be the first time, we just had a whole debate about pride flags in our region. Symbols can be very important. However, when you're talking about climate emergency on one hand, on the other hand, denying what is established fact is that when you pave over a piece of grass, it no longer absorbs water. We've got the left hand and the right hand contradicting each other, and this again is so much a part of the frustrating way in which our cities work, and which any kind of seriously ambitious change towards, say, dealing with the environment, dealing with transit, dealing with our reliance on cars, all these issues just continually get held up while people talk the talk but absolutely don't walk the walk. And I think this is just a very symbolic of that process.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with that. Is that it was all symbolism. It was all smoke and mirrors. And the sad thing is, our municipalities, our municipal governments should be at the forefront of the climate change debate. I mean, we've seen it. They're the ones dealing with the repercussions of climate change. Uh, in the article that I was reading, they had an expert on who couldn't discount that climate change is causing this. We're having warmer winters. More water displaced and whatnot. You're right though. To have a climate change emergency declared, and then no one did any substantive reviews of their policies or building codes or anything of that nature to say we need to address this. We need to have an overhaul of how we build. Instead, to the state, Oakville is just continuing with the sprawl. There's more neighborhoods, single family homes just being built north of the city with no concept of, well, how do we make these more ecologically friendly, more sustainable, and more uh, uh, meaningful to the environment, and to put more people tighter together for the sake of urban density.
I mean,
It was all, it's clearly it was just a smoke
yeah,
show.
and we're going to be probably talking in a few weeks about um, the regional official plan in Halton, which is currently being reviewed. Um, and the choices are in essence between a small amount of sprawl and a large amount of sprawl. There was one option that was put in at the last minute at the request of regional councillors, which involved no sprawl at all. But of the four options that are kind of before regional council to decide upon, they all involve a certain amount of new land, green space being built on. Now, in fairness, those areas are fairly restricted and predominantly around Milton and Halton Hills. But we're still dealing with a failure to fundamentally grasp the urgency and the emergency that we're dealing with the climate, and the massive role that development and the built environment that we are creating plays in that, both through the way we get around through cars or otherwise, and through the type of buildings that we build. Which, again, actually relates to another story we're going to talk about a bit later, and actually perhaps we could just move straight on to that, which is the outbreaks. Yeah, I mean, it's the outbreaks of COVID in a number of apartment buildings in Hamilton now. One in particular, I believe, is Rebecca Towers, has had a really horrible outbreak with something like 100 cases.
Over
And
100 at last count, I
yeah,
believe.
simultaneously with the whole building being restricted for months and months on end to one elevator in the building. Now, I can tell you from having lived in an apartment building a few years ago that we had one summer when there was only one elevator, and it's a huge pain in the neck. I mean, it adds huge amounts of waiting around, waiting for elevator, and that's even someone like myself who's quite healthy enough to take the stairs if he wants to. But apartment buildings tend to have high senior populations because it's an affordable place for people who are retired to live, who've maybe sold property.
Well, it's not even that, but if you're coming home with groceries or from running an errand, you gotta use the elevator. You're not going to make 20 trips up and down the flight of stairs to put your groceries away, or if you had to buy a piece of equipment or something. That it's what's amazing about this story to me, Roland, is how everyone is just like shirking their responsibility to the people who live in this tower. It's a real disgusting, just let's turn a blind eye and hope it goes away approach to the pandemic. I don't really know how else to sugarcoat it. It's just for our listeners who don't know the full story, there's been a sharp increase in COVID-19 cases in this one apartment building. A lot of it is tied to the fact that it's an apartment building. People are by nature just closer in contact with each other, and I believe there's two elevators that are built in the building, but one is not functional, which means everyone in that building has to cram onto one elevator to go up and down, to go to their jobs, to go through their lives, whatever. I'm sure our listeners are putting two and two together right now and realizing, yeah, that's a recipe for disaster in a global pandemic. Not surprising, we've now seen 120 cases skyrocket in the towers. Now, when you go to Hamilton Public Health to say, okay, and it was Hamilton Public Health that brought this to everyone's attention. So they said, okay, Public Health, go and take charge, fix the problem. And Public Health says, nope, not our jurisdiction. We have no authority here.
They do have authority. The city does have some authority. The city can order.
The idea was that, let's turn to the city. Let's go to our city councilor, our ward councilor, and the mayor's office, and let's have them do something. And they all sat there and said, no, we'll see.
There's a good
Meanwhile,
quote
there are people who are contracting COVID.
There's a good quote
go ahead,
Spectator, and which kind of typified this problem to me. Now, the owners of the building are saying, well, we're going as quickly as we can to reopen this elevator, and it'll be the end of the month or early June or something. And the council said, well, should we sort of issue an order to them to get this elevator working again? And the advice they received was, well, there's no point because, they've got to wait for parts and things like this. It's like, where is the sense of urgency here, or the sense that in extraordinary circumstances, you have to make extraordinary things happen? It's not good enough to say, well, we've got to wait for the parts when people are potentially going to die because of the absence of a second elevator. It's this is a once in a lifetime experience. We've got people behaving like this is an administrative problem. We have the comment from, we have a comment from if I can just find it, from Paul Johnson, who's the head of Hamilton's pandemic response. And he said on the subject of setting up vaccination clinics kind of in apartments to do a whole building in one go, seems like a great idea to me. You focus on a problem area, vaccinate the whole building in a day or something like that. This is what he said to that suggestion. He says, well, at this point, there's not the capacity for public health to set up and deliver those types of clinics. And then we have to be careful. Would we do that in every instance? To which the answer is, yeah, hell where? Why not? And if you don't have the capacity, why the
That's
hell
your
do you not have
mandate.
it? Yeah. I mean, if you don't have the capacity, ask for the
That's exactly
capacity, get the money, get the people.
that. I mean, if you think about it, that's the entire problem of why we're in a third wave of this pandemic. It's this nobody wants to do the work that's necessary to keep us safe. The premier wants to pass off the responsibility to the public health departments. Well, surprise, surprise, when it comes down to having them use their authority to keep us safe, I'm not surprised. Well, we'll get around to it when we get around to it. Do we really want to go into every apartment? Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah.
I mean, what you want is to set up can you get motor homes and drive around to all the hardest hit neighborhoods and say, okay, everybody, come on down. We're going to get you a vaccine in your shoulder and record it. Like, why
Like,
is this so difficult?
And it's like there's been this collective collapse of faith by people who work in government to believe in government's ability to do stuff, believe in the public sector's ability to do stuff. You are the people with the power to move mountains in a crisis if you work in the public service. We have Lauriane Gagne is COA of a non-profit housing provider. One of the buildings that is currently in outbreak is under the Victoria Park Community Homes. She asked ages ago for that kind of setup in the high rises gym of like a kind of a vaccine clinic, because that would reach the people who maybe don't speak English as a first language. It'd reach people with transportation or mobility problems. It would, it seems like an eminently sensible thing to do. She didn't even get a reply. I mean, what kind of pandemic is it when people just can't even pick up the phone and answer someone? I don't know. It's this.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, Roland. Let's look at our experience with trying to get vaccines. Just like you and I have very similar, but it was a nightmare. I mean, it was literally like, let's go. It's like the Wild West black market COVID-19 vaccine scenario where I was flabbergasted. Like I'm still getting messages from old wait lists that I forgot that I put myself on to get the vaccine. Like it's just the idea of like, oh, you're on your own to solve this issue. It's preposterous. I mean, this is I mean, I don't want to be this guy, but this is kind of what we pay our tax dollars for. This is why we have a public health department. This is why we have a municipal government, is to do this. When the shit hits the fan, somebody's got to step up and say, okay, it's on me. I got to fix it. And yeah, I got to kind of bust heads. And yeah, you might upset a few landlords. Tough shit. I don't care at this point. I'm done. We're over a year into this. I'm done with this like niceties and let's ask politely. Have some fucking balls, kick open some doors and say, get your ass to work, fix the elevator, or you know what? We're going to start fining you until you do get it done, until you magically find those parts. And yeah, public health, you know what? Just go door to door if you have to and jab people in the arms with the vaccine. If that's what it takes to get people safe, that's what you gotta fucking do.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
someone made the point.
My language so colorful. I'm at my wit's end with this nonsense. We
can still swear the CRTC hasn't got us yet. That's another story. Yeah, I mean, someone made the point, actually. I think it may have actually been Councillor Maureen Wilson made the point. Paramedics have been able to go door to door doing tests in the buildings. So in that case, could they not have taken the vaccine with them at the same time? Again, the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. We can send in paramedics to do a test, but we can't send in paramedics or health professionals to provide vaccinations. This didn't used to happen. I mean, sure, in an emergency, we have to accept a certain loss of civil liberties, a certain loss, a certain level of government interference in our lives that we don't accept at other times.
We haven't lost any liberties.
Well,
that's the thing. It's an inconvenience of wearing a fucking mask, which, quite frankly, I'm used to by now. So, I am. I mean, hell, we're criticizing the government right now. Nobody's going to come knock on our door, Roland. Nobody's going to come asking us some questions and throwing us in jail. We have not lost one single civil liberty.
I mean,
What we're asking is people to do their
yeah, and I
job.
think people would have accepted that. People would have accepted the government saying, "Okay, here's the vaccines. We're going to have a list. We're going to treat it like, I mean, we're going to go by postcode by postcode. We're going to focus on the areas with the highest rates. We're going to go after people who have to leave home to work." I mean, we're getting there now, but we're getting there a year late. Um, and even now, it's being constantly undermined by the province's own messaging. You know, I find it frankly pretty damn insulting that I went out, and you did too, and so many other people did as well, kind of trying to be good citizens, going out and getting the AstraZeneca vaccine at the first opportunity, not waiting for some other vaccine because we wanted to do the right thing. So we did that,
Okay,
and
so
now the province is
we're gonna go off. We're gonna go off on the government's bungling of AstraZeneca because I've been dying to do this for about a week now. Yeah, these guys, these guys. I am flabbergasted. Yeah, I mean, you and I had to fight tooth and nail. I mean, it was like Mad Max Thunderdome to find a place that we could get and the AstraZeneca vaccine, and then we finally got it, and it like you earned that vaccine. Like
yeah.
that thing kind of knocks you on your butt for a good 48 hours. Like you feel like, yeah, I know what, I earned this immunity
I've
afterwards.
done my civic
And then to
duty
say, yeah,
and
you know what?
some here.
Yeah. And then to have them come in and say, yeah, we're gonna pause it now. You know. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, what do I'm waiting for a second dose here.
Uh-huh.
What do I do? And nobody has that answer. We have hints, but no, like they didn't stand up and say this is the plan going forward. It's just all of a sudden like, yeah, we you know we're gonna buy into the conspiracy knowledge that it has some blood clots
Well,
reported.
the numbers are. I mean, I don't want to take away the tragedy for anybody who has died because of this. However, people die all the time, has been pointed out many times now. We've known for decades that the contraceptive pill has far higher risks associated with blood clots. People still take that. The catching COVID itself gives you a far higher risk of having blood clots. I don't think there's any medication on earth that doesn't have some kind of side effect, some kind of risk associated with it. It
Mhm.
seems like madness to me that the simple math that is involved here of on this side there's this small risk, on this side there's this huge risk, not just of catching COVID, but of catching COVID, giving it to other people, and of spreading variants around, or developing our own Canadian homegrown variant. Who knows? That could come along any moment in an apartment block, say, that could have been vaccinated en masse a few
Mhm.
weeks ago. So, and you cannot tell me. I mean, I usually try to avoid conspiracy theories. I'm a much more bigger fan of the cock up theory of how things get done. Just through my experience of being involved in politics. uh,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
but it seems awfully coincidental, doesn't it, that the two provinces who led the way are saying, "Oh, a matter of days, a matter of almost hours after the Prime Minister said, take AstraZeneca, it's safe, take whichever vaccine you're offered," that they should then do what they can to contradict him, to undermine him, and to throw blame in his direction. And it's Ontario and it's Alberta. Now, I know Nova Scotia has joined the party now, but, that's just the herd mentality of premiers, I suspect, at that point. But those first two, it's awfully
I,
coincidental, isn't it?
I, I, I'm not going to comment on that. I don't know, but I find that the situation that we're in is a uniquely Canadian one. You know, we're faced with a global pandemic, a global emergency. We have a solution at our fingertips. Um, the light is at the end of the tunnel, and we cock it up by provincial infighting
Hmm.
and trying to one up. We need to have that narrative and save our butts with with uh, you know we got the Premier of Ontario taking out ads against Justin Trudeau, blaming open borders, which account for like 1.4% of all cases in the province at the moment. Yeah, we probably should be closing the borders tighter. I'm not going to give Trudeau a pass on that, but don't try and blame all of your problems on that 1%, right? The rest of it is all on you, Doug. It's all on you. It's all on this government of workplace spread in the schools. Just public spread is why we're in this situation. You drop the ball. That's why we're in a third wave. My worry is this is going to send the wrong message to people of, oh, shopper, wait for the right vaccine to come to you and then take it. We're going to see greater vaccine hesitancy, which, quite frankly, my worry is, what if we lead into a fourth wave over the summer because
Hmm.
the messaging isn't clear? I mean, we talked about this way. This was like, what, the third episode we did. Like, we had Mike Gibbs on to talk about the importance of
Hmm.
clear political, clear communication in a pandemic like this. You can't muck around. You can't say, take it, don't take it, maybe. Wait and see. You need to have clear, concise information, clear, concise instructions for the public to follow, and they have not done that ever.
No.
I'm trying to think back, and they haven't. And I'm personally, I'm angry because I took the AstraZeneca vaccine. I feel fine. My health is fine. Um, I went through the side effects like everybody else is reporting, but I felt fine afterwards. And my honest fear is I got to do it all over again. My fear is that there's not going to be a second dose for me at my pharmacy. My fear is that the news is going to come down and say, yeah, you should not mix
Hmm.
vaccines, which means that I got to wait for this thing to wear off, and
Well,
then I got to go and fight again for a Pfizer or a Moderna or a Johnson and Johnson vaccine, and hope to God that they don't cancel that on me, and then wait another 4 months to get the second dose. I'm doing my part. I feel like our government is not doing
yeah,
theirs.
absolutely. I mean, and think about this. Well, we've had, according to Twitter anyway, the Minister of Health, Christine Elliott, has said, yeah, well, unfortunately, some vaccines are now going to go to waste because they're going to expire before we've received instructions from the that vaccine organization that caused this mess. Um, whose name I can't
Nazi,
remember. Yeah, um,
Nazi,
and
yeah.
yeah. Um, so they're going to let vaccines go to waste while they await sort of further instructions. Meanwhile, we're getting more shipments, and they're suggesting that, well, that's fine because the people who've had a first dose can take that. So are we more expendable now? What? You can't send these mixed messages. It's safe or it's not safe. It's safe for us, but it's not safe for other people. No, don't. It's safe. You're just being dicks. Um, yeah, it's every step of the way in this thing. And the point I want to make more than anything is, you know, my friend in the UK, the guy I went to university with, it was his birthday 2 days ago. He had his birthday dinner at the pub with a nice beer indoors because he's allowed to do that because the infection rates in Britain are now very low. Absolutely kind of dropping like a stone since the vaccine has pretty much been, reached very high levels. That's all the AstraZeneca vaccine, by the way. That's the only one they have in the UK. Um, and they're seeing the benefits. They're starting to get back to something closer to normal life. And we're messing around over
That's
here.
what get
Yeah.
that's what pisses me off is that we do this. It's like they wanted to buy into this, crackerjack conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory of, oh, it's worse for you because there might be a blood clot at some point in the future. Da, 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 da. And we have the entire country of Great Britain has beaten this thing because of AstraZeneca. Like they didn't have this like, oh, shop around. No, there's like AstraZeneca is a British company. It is they manufactured it in Britain. Remember, because that was the whole thing. We didn't get any AstraZeneca for a while because the Brits were hogging it all to themselves. So they said, no, we're going to keep it for ourselves to immunize our people. Then you get them afterwards. They did it. They beat COVID. Our Dr. Williams and Doug Ford, somehow they think they're better than the British. I don't know. They
what do they know that 60 million British people don't know? And
it's like that's what floors me.
Yeah, and with a prime minister over there who is a complete clown, has done everything he could to undermine the process too. My God, Roland, I'd rather have Boris Johnson as our premier right now than Doug Ford. I know that's saying something, but I probably
that's how bad it is.
Yeah. Ultimately, because Boris Johnson may be a moron, but there are professional public servants behind him who are far better, who are far smarter than what we've been dealing with here in Ontario with Dr. Williams, to name but one. There are other stories happening in the 905. There's some really huge news coming on the LRT front in Hamilton, but I'm seeing we're at 33 minutes, so maybe we should hold that one back for a future episode.
I think so. I think that deserves its own episode. That's pretty big news for Hamilton. I think it's been coming for a long time. They deserve to have a full episode devoted to that. So let's hold off on that one for an episode.
Yeah. So
okay. I think, I was going to say, I think we've taken up enough of our gracious listeners' time. I'm going to close off this episode and say thanks you very much, everyone, for listening. Hopefully you are getting your COVID shot and you're doing your part to stay safe and help the rest of us out. Stay safe out there and stay vaccinated. That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.
Looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.